If you are in the market and you are considering paint protection for your vehicle, then I have a treat for you, because this video is going to be the absolute buyer's guide to the different types of protective options available in the market. We're going to be talking about all the different options, right from waxes and sealants all the way through to PPF, the pros and cons of everything, and especially factoring in those pros and cons and how you tie it in with your specific circumstances, budget, vehicle, and how you're looking at using this vehicle. Let's get stuck straight into it. And to truly pick the best paint protection for your vehicle, you need to really grasp two things that will form the foundation of your choice. First of all, you need to understand the benefits of the various types of paint protection and why we need paint protection to begin with. The next thing is to understand your personal circumstances, because no two people are the same and there is no right or wrong choices when it comes to paint protection, but there will be right and wrong choices for your personal circumstance, which I will definitely focus on later on in this tutorial. Why do we need paint protection? Vehicles are exposed to a lot of damage on a daily basis. That paint is very thin, you have paid a premium for that paint, and when you drive it around, you take it outside, it's exposed to UV, it's exposed to dirt and grime, acid rain, bird poo, bat poo, tree sap, graffiti, stone chips, scratches, tree branches. Depending on your circumstances, that paint is really going to be exposed to a lot of damage. And you have paid a premium for that car. You have paid tens of thousands of dollars, if not 100 or 200 or 300 or $1 million for that car. So it's in your interest to keep it looking as good as you can for better resale value, for you to enjoy that expensive car that you've bought, or bike or boat or whatever it is. And that's quite the simplified version of it. Don't be fooled when somebody says to you, oh, I'll just get it resprayed later on. It doesn't work like that. No paint shop will ever be able to match a spray job better than the factory can, because factories spend tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars on the robotics and the technology to get it looking the way it does. Now that we understand what our paint goes through, let's talk very briefly about what we can expect from the paint protection offerings we're going to be talking about. And please take note of these things, because they're going to be very important when you tie it in with your circumstances. First and foremost, we're looking at dirt and chemical resistance. It's going to resist the buildup of grime. It's going to make it easier for you to wash your car. It's going to keep your car cleaner for longer. It's going to considerably reduce the time you need to take out of your life to maintain your paint and clean your car. The next aspect of paint protection is the protection side, which is chemical resistance. Bird poo, bat poo, tree sap, bug splatter, tar, acid rain, water spotting. A good coating is going to resist that kind of damage. And finally, some of the paint protection we're going to be talking about does give you physical protection against minor scratches, minor stone chips, perhaps graffiti, keying your car and things like that. You can keep all of those in mind, and we're going to dive into them later on. The last consideration before we dive into the different types of protective options are your personal circumstances. This is the most important aspect that you need to consider when you're watching this video, because there is no wrong or right coating, but there is definitely a wrong or right coating for you, and only you know what you need. And by watching this video and paying attention to what I'm going to be sharing with you, you can then zero in exactly on what's the best coating for you. The first thing you need to consider and be realistic is your budget. If you can stretch to a more expensive, better coating, better protective option, of course that will be better, but if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. You have to live within your means. So budget is the number one aspect for you to consider when you're watching this video. The next thing is, how is your vehicle going to be used? How is it going to be maintained? If you are buying a 4x4 and you're going to be driving it through bushes and scrubs and tree branches and forests, dirt roads and gravel, it's going to need a different kind of protective offering to your highly collectible Ferrari that is not even registered and you're keeping it in the garage as an investment, because it's not going to be exposed to the same thing. So you really need to factor in what you're going to be using the vehicle for. There is also no point of paying a premium for a really good ceramic coating if you're not going to be maintaining your vehicle. None of these products are neglect proof. You will always need to maintain your car. So keep that in mind as well, is that you need to also dedicate either the time or the budget to maintain your paint protection, regardless of what coating it is. You also need to factor in how long you're going to keep that car for, because that will also determine the budget. I personally had an experience where I purchased a Land Cruiser Prado, spent a fortune applying PPF only to sell it 12 months later, and I didn't get my money back. So it's very important for you to understand how long you're keeping the car for when you're making a decision. Tying in with the maintenance and repair side of things is you also need to understand the cost of the repair. Some cars are very expensive to fix if the paint is damaged. If you're talking about an exotic car, a matte black Lamborghini, it is going to be very expensive to fix that paint for the smallest scratch. And you might not even be able to color match that matte paint properly. I have seen many people regret not applying a specific coating or a specific protective option after that damage has been done because they just didn't factor in that repair cost. Finally, and most importantly, and I cannot stress this enough, you need to factor in your own trigger points. If you care about physical damage, if you care about stone chips, if you're the kind of person who walks around and looks at every single dent and every single scratch, you're going to need to remember that when you're picking your protective options. If you're the kind of person who doesn't really care about how the car looks and you just want it to be easier to clean and easier to wash, that's also something you need to be aware of because nobody else is going to care about it other than you. It's your car and it's your money. So understand your trigger points. What is your priority? What do you want out of the coating? That is the absolute most important thing. Let's now get stuck straight into it with the first type and the easiest type of paint protection, which is your waxes and sealants. These are things that you can buy off the shelf, you can apply yourself, or you can have a professional detailer apply it for you. They tend to be temporary, whether they last 2 weeks or 6 months. They are temporary types of protective coatings. The first pro is the low cost. It is very cheap for you to do. It's very easy for you to do. The second pro is the ease of reapplication. You don't need a specialist to come out and reapply a paint sealant for you. It's very easy for you to do it yourself. It's very easy to repair. If you have missed a spot on your car, you can simply just apply a little bit more. If you need to clean up your car and redo a section, it's also very easy for you to do that. As I have already mentioned, it is DIY friendly, further lowering the cost. And finally, it does give you medium dirt resistance. A very good hydrophobic wax or sealant, let's say IGL wax or Premier or Enhancer, it's going to resist dirt very, very well for the period that it's supposed to work for. Let's now look at the cons of things like waxes and paint sealants. There is room for error. With anything that you're applying DIY, you can get it wrong. You can apply wax accidentally to your plastic trim, make it turn white, then that's going to give you a bit of a headache and you have to fix it. But it kind of ties in with the ease of repair, so it goes hand in hand. The biggest con for these kinds of coatings is the low durability. It's going to need to be reapplied very regularly. Depending on the product, you might need to reapply it every week or every 2 weeks or every time you wash the car. This is the lowest durability of all of the coatings we're going to be talking about. And it also has the lowest protection of all the different paint protection we're going to be talking about. It's going to resist dirt and grime, potentially give you a little bit of resistance against etching from bird poo, bat poo, tree sap, but really that is the minimum protection you're going to get. Better than nothing, but certainly not the best in the list we're going to be covering. They're also going to give you very limited chemical protection and absolutely no physical protection. So these are the pros and cons of waxes and sealants. Let's now talk about ceramic coatings. For the sake of simplicity and the sake of transparency, there is no such thing as a graphene coating. You have been misled if you're thinking there's a graphene coating and a ceramic coating. All paint protection coatings have the same concept. They're all resins in some sort of carrier fluid. Some paint protection coatings have graphene as an additive, and it's going to be its own subject, but read into the technical aspects of the product because not all products are the same. But because this is IGL Coatings Australia, we're going to be talking about things like IGL Arcane and IGL Elixir, IGL Kenzo, and these are proper products that have been validated with proper graphene that works. What are the pros of a good quality ceramic coating? Firstly, it's going to have the highest chemical resistance out of anything we're going to be talking about. It's also going to have the best dirt and grime resistance, making your car easier to wash and easier to clean. The repairs are very easy. If you go to a professional detailer, they can simply polish a panel and recoat it. Very, very quick and very, very cheap. It has the best aesthetics. It's going to make your car look the best out of any of the protective coatings we're going to be talking about. It's also very easy to redo and reapply. You have your car coated, you enjoy it for a few years. When it's time to be redone, take it to a professional detailer, do a bit of paint correction, reapply the ceramic coating, and you're done. Very easy, very affordable. It is very easy to maintain your ceramic coated vehicle. It also has a medium cost. So out of the three different categories we're talking about, this sits right in the middle as the medium offering. And the final pro for ceramic coatings, it can be topped up and maintained. So you can prolong the life of your ceramic coating for a very long time if you look after it properly. The cons of ceramic paint protection. There is low physical protection. And in fact, I would go as far as saying there is no direct physical protection, but because it resists dirt and grime, it will resist swirl marks because lesser particles will be on the paint, but it will not give your paint protection against stone chips and scratches. And although it is not a con in itself to the product, I'm going to put it out here that there is a lot of clutter, misleading information in the market about paint protection. There are no boundaries and there is no restrictions on what companies can claim. So there are a lot of white labeled product with misleading information about different types of performances. So keep that in mind. You need to stick to reputable brands that make validated, reputable claims. Don't go and buy the 50-year coating that costs you $3.50. It's not going to work. Diving into our final category is PPF, paint protection film, clear bra, clear wrap, vinyl. You get the gist. It is a physical plastic film that is applied onto your car. It has some very strong pros that nobody else has, but it also has a lot of cons that we're going to dive into. The first pro is that it is a physical barrier. You're applying a physical film onto your paint. So whatever happens to that film, it's not particularly going to get into the paint itself. Now, this is only applicable for PPF. I have seen vinyl wrap, like when people wrap their roofs with carbon fiber or black, damage the paint underneath permanently. But we're going to be talking about PPF specifically, and PPF will physically protect the paint underneath. It's going to protect it from light scratches, it's going to protect it from light stone chips, and from people keying your car and whatnot. But beyond that, there's actually no other pros. Let's talk about the cons. In no particular order, PPF is by far the most expensive offering on this list. It will cost you 3, 4, 5 times more than a ceramic coating. The end result of PPF and how it looks is greatly dependent on the skill of the applicator. That is going to be how the edges are done, if there are any lifts, if there are any bubbles or stretch marks, how the panel is wrapped itself. You can have the best film, but if you have an average or below average applicator, the result's going to look pretty bad. Because PPF is a soft plastic film, it is very susceptible to water spotting and staining. And because of that, it cannot be repaired, it must be replaced. So if you don't maintain your PPF properly, it's going to stain, it's going to look ugly. And I get asked all the time, can you polish up my PPF, can you fix it? Unfortunately, in most cases, that cannot be repaired. It must be physically peeled off and replaced, leading me to the next con, which is the very high cost of reapplication. Not only do you have to pay for the film to be redone, you need to pay even more money for the film to be taken off, and that is a very high risk to peel the original paint off. I have seen paint come off McLarens and Lamborghinis very often because the bond of that paint to the carbon fiber or whatever composite it is, it's very poor. So keep that in mind, is that redoing PPF will cost you a lot more than the initial application. And it is not very easy to take off. You can easily damage your paint in doing so. As I have already mentioned, it cannot be serviced. PPF cannot be polished and redone and reapplied easily. Once it's damaged, it needs to be replaced. Leading me to the next con, which is it must be maintained very, very regularly. You can't leave water sitting on your PPF for long because you will get water spotted. You can't leave it without being washed for a long time. It can lead to water spotting, whether it's tree sap, bird poo, bat poo. All of those things need to be addressed very quickly, because if you get one little stain on your bonnet, that whole bonnet needs to be peeled off and redone. Or if you're in America, a hood. The final con here is questionable warranties. Very similar to ceramic coatings, with lots of brands making lots of different claims, but with PPF, almost all the companies, if not all of them, are claiming 10 years of warranty plus. You need to understand what that warranty covers, because sometimes it is very misleading. You also need to understand who's going to cover the cost of the reapplication. All well and good for somebody to give you a 10-year warranty, but what are you going to get for your 10 years warranty if after 9 years the person who applied that film is no longer offering that film or no longer in business? So that's a con here. Let's now wrap it up and put all the information I gave you together so you can have some recommendations for your circumstances. If you are on a limited budget, or if you don't mind to spend the time maintaining your car, if you're the kind of person who loves to wash your car and spend time fiddling with it every week, or if your vehicle does not get driven much, it's a classic car, it's a collectible, it's a museum piece, there is nothing wrong with using sealants and waxes. They will give you the benefits that you need for your circumstance by making it easier to clean and making it look fantastic at a low cost. This is also great for a vehicle that's already not perfect. If your car is already stone chipped, scratched, faded, etc., you can't go and put PPF or a ceramic coating on. It's not going to make it look any better, but you can certainly use wax and sealant at a low cost and get a few more years out of your vehicle. If your budget is medium and your priority is something that is easy to live with, give you time back in your life, it's your daily driver, it's your wife's car, it's your mum's or dad's car, it's your kid's car, whatever it is, and you want something affordable, easy to look after, kind of idiot-proof, or you want something that looks tops. You don't want the maximum protection, but you just want something that looks showroom quality for your Ferrari, Lamborghini, whatever it is. Get a ceramic coating. Get a good quality ceramic coating. It is the best option for you. If your budget is very high, if your vehicle is going to see physical abuse like my Land Cruiser, or you have a track car, you have a Porsche 911 GT3 RS that you take to the racetrack, really your only option is physical protection, which is PPF. But you need to also understand the cons for that is that you're also not chasing perfection here. You need to understand that there are going to be imperfections. And I have a very good friend, Michael, has a R35 GTR. He's one of the most OCD people I know. Absolutely love him. One of my best friends. And he is a perfectionist. So he's always in the middle between if he loves PPF or not. So you need to really remember that point where I said about your trigger points. You need to accept the cons, not just the pros. Now, if you have been taking everything I've said to you and taking real good note of it, you would have seen that the pros of the PPF offset the cons of the ceramic coating, and the pros of the ceramic coatings offset the cons of the PPF. So if you have an unlimited budget, or if you can afford it and you want the best of everything, simply get PPF done, accept the fact that there might be some imperfections with edges and bubbles and lifting, and get a good quality coating applied onto that PPF like iGel Shield. So that way you're going to have the physical protection from the PPF, but then you're also going to protect your PPF from etching and the dirt and all that by having a ceramic coating on there. You get the best of both worlds. So I hope this video has given you some insights on the way that you should be thinking when you're buying a ceramic coating or a PPF coating or any protection. I hope now you have a bit more clarity on what you need to do. But if I'm going to leave you with one bit of advice, it's to take into factor two very important things. The first one is your budget. The second one is your specific pain points and what you really care about. And generally speaking, those two don't align. So you really need to make that decision you're not going to regret. If you care about stone chips and care about scratches and you want to keep your car for a very long time because you can't afford to replace it, but you can't afford PPF, you need to understand that you really need PPF and maybe stretch yourself to get the PPF. On the other side of things, if you are going to have a car sitting in a museum in your garage, you're never going to drive it, you're the kind of person who does 500 kilometers a year in their Ferrari, there might not be much of a point in getting it wrapped in PPF because you're going to be risking somebody cutting your paint with the blade. There's going to be lifts when you eventually take off that wrap because it's going to yellow after a few years. You're risking peeling the paint off that Ferrari for no reason. So really factor in your personal circumstances and your budget together, along with all the information I have given you. Please do like this video, please do subscribe to the channel, and please give me your comments so I can make more content for you if you have found this to be of value. Thank you for watching.